Hey, welcome back to Talks from the Essex Hotel with your hosts, Sarita Patel and Latham Woodward. This week's subject, the importance of art in all of our lives. Enjoy the show. Hi, Sarita.
Hi, Latham.
Great subject.
It's been on the wavelength for many, many months with us, hasn't it?
It has been. And I just did a show, Focus on the Artist with John McCormick, a well-known landscape artist here in Marin County. It's up on YouTube. Go find it if you like. John McCormick, Focus on the Artist. But I think it's so important to invest. And you don't have to be rich to do it. You can support your friends who are artists. You can find art at yard sales. You can find it at auctions. You can find it at stores. You can find it anywhere. But what I think you need to do is surround yourself with art. And I think you and I are on the same page on this one.
Yeah, we are. And I think we're talking about it a lot more because, the times that we're in. And we obviously know that when people are creating their own art, whether it's dance, music, poetry, stories, it's the creative form, which is the arts, which have been available throughout history to people because of its importance in, a healthy life.
Yeah.
And, I was talking with you the other day about just that term starving artist. And then I mentioned to you Joshua Townsend from Notes on Your Notes, who is an incredible writing coach, leader in Los Angeles. He wrote something on Facebook today about the whole notion of starving artist and where that came from. And not to get off on tangent.
No, I want to hear it. Where does Joshua say it comes from?
Well, it's just a term that I think historically artists competed for a benefactor approval.
Patron.
Mm-hmm. So say you've got 1,000 artists in Florence and they're all sketching nudes or landscapes, that benefactor, whichever one or ones they really resonated with, that person's career would get supported.
Michelangelo da Vinci.
Yeah.
And da Vinci.
Right. And the other artists had to go to their day job and their art wasn't going to bring them in wealth. And that's where starving artist came from. It's kind of like, you're the dumb one in the class.
No.
You weren't gifted.
Right, but we got to put this in context, too. Like a guy like Van Gogh,
mm-hmm.
Who died penniless, basically.
Mm-hmm.
He traded art his whole life. And most artists actually end up doing that,
Yeah.
There are the ones like Michelangelo, Da Vinci, Renoir, Monet, who had success during their lifetimes.
Mm-hmm.
Andy Warhol in his own way.
Mm-hmm.
But the majority of well-known artists didn't die with full pockets, put it that way.
No, they didn't. Well, they're also not great money managers.
No, they like the cafe lifestyle, that's for sure.
Right. So it's kind of like, they chose to live a life of art. And again, if you go through history, there's a reason auction houses are so big with art, and that's because they're actually cataloging, holding the history of our humanity. And you can really direct the narrative of history through the collecting of art. When lands were wiped out, when things were overtaken, and that's all through the art. I mean, it's always been documented. Do you know what I mean?
I do know what you mean. And also there's the whole thing, it's not even recent, I shouldn't even say that, but it has happened recently about the somewhat Ponzi pump and dump art market in New York City, mm-hmm. about how they find the young artist who's dynamic, interesting, different. Okay, mm-hmm. The key word here is different, mm-hmm. from the other artists. Mm-hmm. The very moneyed class will buy them, mm-hmm. and will pump them up attend their openings, tell their friends about them, buy their works, resell their works for significantly more money than they got them for, and those go on to be resold and resold and resold. And then that person's not the it girl or the it guy anymore, and they go into depression and suicidal sometimes, and because they're not the top artist anymore.
Right.
And that's a real big issue, in the art market, because you've got people who are talented, for sure. Their works aren't worth $40 million, but they're talented and they deserve some success. But the elite use them as pawns in their greater financial scheme. And that's any kind of artistic endeavor. And I'm glad you mentioned music, right? Music is, another artistic endeavor that is enhancing your life. One thing that has changed, though, in your and my lifetime is when you and I were about the same age, we could go to concerts. When I was in high school, I've seen a ton of great bands, and it would be like $22, $8 sometimes, You know how much my daughter pays for concerts now?
Oh my God, I heard it's just like...
It's $300 minimum.
Right.
Minimum. And I just look at her and go, you shouldn't be doing this. For God's sake, buy their album, watch them on YouTube. They've got great camera work. But they've made it into such a thing because the representative of those artists, meaning the record companies, they were skimming all the money out of the program and taking it for themselves, so the artist got nothing. And the artist quickly figured out, like the Grateful Dead did, when we tour, we make money. When we don't tour and we're relying on record sales, we make a tenth of what we normally make when we're on tour. But so that's an artist getting wealthier, but it's still a bad scene because you can't afford to see good music anymore.
Well, right. And, it plays into that. Then those artists who go on tour or have, millions of record labels made, they are then a product that is like literally shipped around. It's the same thing over. I always wondered how a musician could sing the same song that many times. I was like, I don't think I'd be able to do it because the novelty has worn off. And if you're creative, how can you keep doing the same thing over and over and over again?
There are a lot of rock bands and artists who will not sing certain songs. They will not. They're like, I'm never singing that again. You could beg me and pay me $1 million. I'm never going to sing Hotel California ever again. Right? I'm just picking on the Eagles, sorry. But it's true. I mean, how could you do it repetitively and not feel weird about it? I'm asking. So, I worked on that movie called Spinning Gold, which was about music. Yeah, I've heard you talk about it.
Yeah. Well, that kind of plays into what we're talking about. I didn't mean to talk about this, but that was a movie that I got involved with because of the significant story behind the artists and how Neil Bogart was really acting on behalf of all these individual artists like Kiss and Donna Summer. I thought, now this is somebody who's doing it right. They're advancing the artist. They're allowing the artist to be who they really are. But, after everything was said and done about that movie, and now that I know a lot more about the true story, and anybody can tell a story and then have it be believed. But really, going back to that, it was the beginning. It was the 70s. And it was all about mass marketing music and using the arts to shape culture. That's where I think it gets really dangerous.
Yes. Yeah, and okay, so let's go back to what I was saying about, the New York marketing combo that with what you're just saying. Basquiat. He was the darling of the time. Remember, Madonna loved him, who was the it girl of the time. And so they were palsy walsy, and they were just, taking the art world by storm, taking the music world by storm. But then the bloom came off of Basquiat. And it was over.
Done.
And it was one of those horrible stories. And it's like, that's the fake art market. The real art market is when you see something or you hear something and you like it, and you can buy it, maybe, or you can have a piece of it, do it. Not because someone else told you.
Right. Right. Somebody else told you that this is a really important piece of art. Again, it's just like the programming that we were talking about. You are being programmed by some authority out there. I don't know how these folks get to be the authority. I guess you buy your way into it.
Yeah.
And then you emulate a lifestyle that's part of the culture, right? So then now these people become, or these institutions become the authority. And humans are funny the way they just think, oh, okay, like I have to have that. And it goes anywhere. You can have an original painting, and that costs the $40 million when we don't even know how that number became adjusted. But then they make calendars and coffee mugs and mouse pads and postcards. And so the regular people can then have that art, and that's mass marketing of art, which is a money game.
It is. But again, if you like something, right? Rather than like Basquiat, I don't care about Basquiat. I don't like his art at all. I mean, it's not my thing. You might like it. I mean, that's fine because you like it, or So it's even if you took a print. Well, like right now, you can't see this, people at home, but Sarita is sitting in front of her cover of Interview magazine that was signed by Andy Warhol when she worked at the factory for Andy, and it's its own piece of art. That cover is art, not just because Andy signed it, but it's an interesting piece of art in itself, and it wasn't meant to be art. It was meant to be commercial, but it became art. And that's interesting and good. Or you're not looking in the studio of the artworks that I've done called like Godzilla Destroying Chicken Village. It's not for everybody, but I like it. The flying saucer and Godzilla burning down a village in Asia somewhere. But it's interesting and it's different. But art is subjective. And get what you like, and don't fall for the other stuff.
Well, right, because even if you fall for something else and you put it in your home, there is literally, if we could measure this, there is a difference in how that piece makes you feel. If it's there for status, it's going to be a limited amount of joy. If it's there because you love it so much, it just like makes you feel something, that feeling doesn't really go away. It's like the essence. It's like the smell of soil. The smell of soil is like, it's just clean. It smells like the earth, right? And I don't know if people make that distinction when they're looking at something that they purchased for status, or because they just appreciate the creativity of that, and it's their own personal resonance with it.
Well, there is one thing art-wise that I don't like in terms of static art, and this is because I'm a motorhead. I literally, I don't know if that's the right word, hate it when people take an exotic car or exotic motorcycle and they drain the oil out of it and they put it in their living room as a piece of art. And that pisses me off because it's not art, it's a machine. It's meant to do something. And sitting there looking,
they do.
What's that?
Sorry, I want to show you something. I'm listening because it has to do with that. Sorry.
So it goes back to, you have a beautiful 1965 or 69 Ducati Dharma in your living room, and it's perfect paint job, and the engine looks perfect, and it's not dripping oil because it's got no oil in it. That's an abomination to me.
So wait, people do that?
People do it all the time because they're so cool. Like, they have this wonderful thing. It's like having a horse. It's like having an amazing racehorse. And one year you're like, I like that horse, but I don't like the fact it eats. So you kill the horse, you stuff the horse, and you put it in your house. It's the exact same thing. There is no difference there. That horse that used to be beautiful and elegant and running in the fields free or racing on the racetrack, its heart, pounding, that's no more. And people who put these cars and these motorcycles in the living room basically have taken and eviscerated and emasculated these things for their own visual enjoyment.
I really had no idea people do that.
They do that. And it's a real big thing. Germans love doing this. Sorry, Germans, if you're listening, but I've seen it a million times.
Well, and if you're saying Germans love doing that, it's only because it was probably marketed that way, right? So it goes back to the influence. If the influence is directing herds of people to behave in a certain way, then, they target countries independently all the time. That's why we say things like Germans like this, Indians don't like this, da da da. And then now we live in a world where if you say that, then you're racist. And it's like, no, it's just.
Well, here's a little thought experiment for you. It's not in the art world, but take some really spicy hot sauce and put it in a taco and give it to a British guy in London. See how well that goes.
My mother and I were at the Indian store the other day and we got samosas and she goes, Sarita, do they sell lots of these samosas? And I said, yeah, they sell a lot. And she goes, it's spicy, don't you think? And my mother can eat really spicy food.
Well, let's hear Ba. Let's hear Ba say it for herself. Did you like the samosas, Ba?
I like it, but I don't like too spicy.
Yeah, because that's not how you experience samosas.
But
right?
when I make the way I make some I make more spicy, and some I make a very medium size, spicy.
Medium spicy.
Yeah. I don't put too much, what I'm saying,
I'm licking my lips right now, Ba, because I'm looking forward to some of your samosas. Hopefully you can make some.
Oh, my God. The samosas, when we were growing up, all my mom's friends, the Indian ladies, used to all make samosas. And so there was this big...
Listen, sometime is a party going on, like Saturday we're going to have a party, right? And about a couple days ago, we start making homemade samosa and put it in a refrigerator. And people come, then we fry.
Yeah. Well, Ba, there's an old saying, there ain't no party like a samosa party.
Samosa, and we make like a soup and rice and vegetable and everything, full dinner. But in beginning, everybody come down and have some snack,
Yes.
Then dinner.
Okay.
Yeah.
The cooking is like an art, right? That's another.
It is an art.
For absolutely.
Yeah. And like I have, okay.
Yes, you can talk, but it's okay.
Yeah.
And that's funny because it was Escoffier, who came out with like the book of standardized French practices in cooking, right? And how everyone followed it. Basically, it's the constraints within art, forming a guideline of practices. As some people would say, it's like I don't know how Alice Waters, famed for the French, not French, is it French laundry? No,
Chez Panisse.
Chez Panisse. Sorry, you get so confused here in the Bay Area. Chez Panisse, and her very simple but yet excellent food at Chez Panisse. I don't think they maybe follow or they use the background of Escoffier and those techniques and stuff like that, but it is art. And she's a great example. I'm on the fence about Chez Panisse. I liked lunches. I didn't really care for their dinners, but that was art. Everything you did when you went into that restaurant was kind of artful.
Everything was artful.
Yes.
Just, from the architecture of the building to the seating to the layout,
to your Heath plates, the whole thing.
Everything.
Yeah.
Yeah.
But that's another great example of art. And then what on that line, though, within restaurants and stuff like this, there's this current thing. It's like, your badges, your like merit badges of restaurants. Well, I've been here, and I've been here, and I've been here, and I've been here. And often you don't hear conversations about that subject, about the presentation was amazing, the food was amazing, the taste profiles were amazing, the service was amazing. You hear, oh my God, it was so neat. We got to see Francis Ford Coppola there. rather than paying attention to the art.
Right.
Why are you going to this place? You're going to just stargaze, or are you going for the experience?
Well, maybe a lot of people are going places to see their influencers or celebrities. I mean, we definitely live in a time, boy, oh boy.
Well, let's shout out to a local food artist here, Michelin star chef Ron Siegel here at Madcap in San Anselmo. If you haven't been to Madcap, Ron is one of the few Americans that ever won on Iron Chef. And people don't know that. The earliest days of Iron Chef and Ron Siegel, when I think he was chef at Charles and Nod Hill, or his gig before that. But he beat the Iron Chef Morimoto.
Wow.
Yes. And he's right here in San Anselmo, and he and his wife do an amazing job, and it's artful. Everything they do is artful, and I love that. And it's just like photography, right? Or film. There's some films out there that there's an old film, I don't remember this one, called Koyaanisqatsi, A World in Imbalance. Do you remember that?
I do remember that.
It was a tough watch, but you got into it, and it was like, Jesus, this isn't... And it was so far before video time. So if anybody is listening to this, I want to go back and watch a film that is artful. That Koyaanisqatsi is amazing. There are other art films out there that are like Blue Velvet. Like it or hate it, okay? Blue Velvet is an intense film. You know, it is so well done. And, you know, there's art pieces out there in film. I'm not a big stage actor guy. I don't really like, you know, the stage plays, but there are some that are fantastic. But then again, my opinion doesn't matter.
Right. Well,
if you like it, God bless you. If you like
Exactly.
musicals, which I snore through, God bless you. Get out there and watch all the musicals you can possibly take and experience them.
Well, because it does change you. Just like, you know, when we were describing, you know, buying a piece of art that you're buying because somebody told you to or inferred that this is important versus something that moves you. And just like you're talking about plays or musicals, go to what you want, what moves you, because it will change you.
It will change you.
Always does.
Another thing that I was watching a really interesting documentary about this older woman who is an artist, a jewelry artist in New York City, and how she was getting evicted after 47 years in her loft. It was a very sad story. But her art were little pieces of jewelry done in an intricate fashion, like not to the level of like Fabergé or something, but everything she did was cool. Everything she did had interest. Like you looked at these pieces and you stared at a pendant that had a little dog on it, a little cat, and a little bird all around a watering hole kind of thing. And you got it. You got it immediately. You looked at this image and you looked at this silver piece that she cast and carved, and it, you know, you could hang it on your neck and you could wear it. That is cool.
That is super cool.
And I love stuff like that.
Well, have you been to Susan's storeroom in San Anselmo?
Yes, I have bought some amazing Steve vintage stuffed animals and new ones from her for my daughter when she was a little kid.
Okay. So, you know, that's another example of like a little artist haven, right? I mean, she created that toy store so that little kids would grow up having art, the effective artistry, just be a normal part of your life. Yeah. And, you know, that sparks your imagination. It makes you creative. It actually allows you to be a good human being, not better human being, because if you're a good human being, hopefully we're always just getting better to be humans.
Yeah.
I think we need a lot more of those Susan's art storerooms around the world again.
We do. And for those of you who don't know about Steve stuffed animals, like get out there and you'll say to yourself, well, why should I spend $325 on this little stuffed monkey or this little bear or this little dog? Pick one of those things up and then tell me it's not worth it. You see the hundreds of hours that go into these things, and each one of them is precious. And there are ones that my great grandmother had, I think. Maybe her great-grandmother. Still,
Wow.
To this day, we still have them in our family. And that's art. I mean, it transcends time.
Mm-hmm.
And it transcends like emotions, and it's like the motorcycle analogy, like don't trap a motorcycle or stuff your horse and put it in your living room. Mm-hmm. That teddy bear, it's art, sure. Mm-hmm. But the joy it brings a child,
it's endless.
How can you quantify that? That $325 just for the reaction of watching your 3-year-old carry a little bear around the house like it's their best friend, you know? Mm-hmm. It's like paying to go to one Oasis concert in London for $400.
Right.
But it's better because it's everlasting.
Well, and for people who don't even know what a stiff bear is, and you're shooting around numbers like 325 because we're in Marin, Bay Area.
Yeah.
But what you just said is, the amount of craftsmanship that goes into making that bear, and not just like a perfect bear. It's like a bear that is going to be a companion for a child. Not the only companion, but it is the companion to spark the imagination, and
oh yeah,
it's endless.
It's going to bring joy, and that brings us back to when you buy a piece of art, whether it's a stiff bear or it's a Basquiat painting or it's a Percy Gray painting or whatever it is, or it's a recording of John Lee Hooker that you've never heard of before. Mm-hmm. That's what it's about, bringing you joy.
It is. So can I ask you a question?
Go.
Or are we okay?
Fire.
So I sent you a YouTube video that was on a channel called Understanding Creativity. And it's a guy who's doing this analysis on art history. And he's got a professor of art history, Susan, on there, who has been studying the occult relationship between certain artists and their paintings. Oh. And it's a little dark, but, she talks very, just, what is the word I'm looking for? She is very succinct and knowledgeable about the true history of what some artists went through. So like a lot of news about the Bohemian Grove right now, right? Good, bad, whatever. Yep. But there's a lot of artists who go there. And
always have been.
Always have been.
Yeah. Ambrose Bierce was one of the founders.
Yeah. So Susan was doing this analysis on some of these artists, and their lives were pretty dark, and the way they behaved was pretty dark, misogynistic.
A lot of liquor.
Yeah.
A lot of cocaine. A lot of heroin.
Right.
Yeah. Not always petunias.
No. And so I'm just bringing this up because when she went through this analysis on a lot of Picasso's work, I couldn't look at a lot of his work the same anymore. It wasn't beautiful to me because there was kind of like, I know the backstory of it. And I just wondered what you thought about that, because I am I'm very picky once I know the backstory of somebody, and it does affect the way I look at what they're painting, because that in itself is influencing somebody or hiding something.
Well, I'm privileged to know a woman in France who was Edith Feidler, and her husband was Eugene Feidler, and they were very, very good friends and contemporaries of Picasso, and they lived with Picasso in the Mediterranean for I think 2 or 3 seasons. Mm-hmm. And he was very misogynistic, incredibly, to the extent where I watched a later interview with him. I think he was 92 at the time, and it was taking place in, I think, the south of France, and there was a young woman, his new wife, who was sitting next to him, and the press corps in front of him said, Monsieur Picasso, are you, do you think you'll ever get divorced, or what was the line? And he goes, or will you ever have children with this new wife, your very young wife? And he goes, well, of course, but I don't know if this is my last wife. And he says it right in front of her. I mean, the ego.
Right.
I mean, that's one thing about artists. A lot of them who are in the power positions because they become famous their ego is insurmountable.
It's insane.
And then you get the artists like Hemingway, right? The writing artists like Hemingway, who had that ego and was very well reflected in his books. I mean, he was an ego. He was on the page. And it doesn't matter if it's Sun Rises or what is the Old Man in the Sea. It doesn't matter what it was. Or did he write that? I can't remember. It was that Steinbeck. He then retreated from the ego and went away. It's just like Marlon Brando. To the height of his acting, he was a great actor. Marlon Brando was an excellent actor. He was svelte, attractive. Every woman wanted him. Men wanted to be like him. But at the end, he was an overweight drunk in Tahiti with a coterie of women around him, but he was not in the public eye at all. And his ego had taken a horrible turn. And it really was, I think, like Hemingway, he viewed his fame and popularity as something that was at first a blessing and then a crippling anchor to him.
Yeah.
That's what art can do to you.
That's what art can do to you. So, and we could talk about this for hours, and this is one of those things where you get a group of people.
This might just be version 1, because there's more to talk about.
Well, there is, and it's a great thing to talk about with people, right? If you can get away from the talking about the importance of a piece because it's sitting in a museum in a specific location, and really just get down to, what do you see in this? How does it make you feel? And there's no right answer. There's no wrong answer, because you can't get your feelings wrong.
No, you cannot, because they're your feelings.
Right.
You brought up an interesting subject, and this will be another episode, and that's art and the theft of art by big institutions. So let's leave it there. Let's leave it there today.
Okay.
Thank you for listening to Talks from the Essex Hotel. Join us every week for some interesting subject matter and topics. Feel free to contact us at Latham, Latham, at madmonastudios.com. That's Latham at madmonastudios.com. If you like this kind of content, please like and subscribe. We greatly appreciate it and helps us move forward with further projects. Until next time, this is Latham Woodward broadcasting from Madmona Studios in beautiful San Anselmo, California, and this is Crashing Boar Productions. Bye-bye.